Have you ever looked at a sentence like, it sounds perfectly fine when you say it out loud, but then it is just completely 100% wrong on a grammar test?
Oh, all the time. Your brain just, it doesn't flag anything at all.
Right. You read it, everything feels normal, and then the exam just penalizes you. Well, today, we are going to show you why your ears are constantly lying to you.
Yeah, it's a pretty harsh reality of formal English. I mean, we rely so heavily on conversational intuition, right? We speak in shortcuts.
We really do.
But formal written English, especially the kind tested in competitive exams, it operates on this strict underlying mathematical logic. And when your intuition clashes with that logic, well, you lose points.
So true. Welcome to this deep dive. We are so glad you're here with us today. Our mission is to take you behind the curtain of Section 1 of the English language paper.
Specifically, we're looking at questions 1 through 30 for the IBPS CRP POMT, the 2026 model paper 06.
Exactly. And instead of just, giving you an answer key and moving on, we want to act as your personal mentors today. We're going to decode every single question. We want to show you the hidden traps that test makers build and how you can actually rewire your brain to spot them.
That's the goal. We are going to deconstruct the psychology of the test. So by the time we finish, you'll stop seeing a wall of chaotic text, and you're going to start seeing the underlying matrix. Everything is just a logical system.
I love that. So let's just unpack this. We have a massive stack of material here running from slides 2 all the way to 36. We are journeying from macro-level reading comprehension all the way down to micro-level grammar mechanics.
So we should probably start big.
Let's do it. So Section 1 is reading comprehension. Before we analyze individual words, you really have to understand the broader context.
Right. It's about building that foundational skill, extracting precise information from the text.
So the source text for questions 1 to 8 is this fascinating two-part passage about Indian banks quietly integrating AI. We're talking chatbots, fraud scanning, faster loans, but also, the regulatory duties and bias risks.
It's a very realistic passage.
It is. Now, when I first read through question 1, I immediately fell into a trap. Question 1 asks, what do chatbots do at midnight? And I saw option B was about loan approvals. My brain just rushed, remembered AI equals faster loans, and I was like, boom, they approve loans.
But that is totally wrong.
I know. The correct answer is actually C, answer routine queries.
Right. It's a brilliantly designed distractor. Test makers love to trick you with answers that are true within the broader passage, but they don't actually answer the specific question.
Yeah, because part 1 of the text explicitly states chatbots answer routine queries. The software handles the loan approvals, not the chatbots.
Exactly. You have to match the specific agent to the action. It's about detail retrieval.
Okay, moving to question 2. It asks, software scans transactions to flag patterns suggesting what? The correct answer here is E, fraud.
Right. This is specific factual identification. The text directly links transaction scanning to fraud detection. I mean, they offer distractors like generating profit, which sounds like a bank thing to do.
It sounds super plausible in the real world.
It does, but you have to turn off your real-world assumptions. If it is not expressly written on the page, it does not exist in the reality of the test.
That makes total sense. So for question 3, it asks, for customers, AI means faster what? And the answer is B, loan approvals.
See, there's the loan approval fact. The passage pairs AI used for customers directly with faster loan approvals and grievance redressal. It's a basic benefit identification question.
Got it. Okay, question 4 shifts to the risks. What can biased data quietly do? And the answer is A, repeat old prejudices.
Because that is explicitly listed as a technological risk in part 2 of the passage, it's a risk comprehension concept.
Right. Question 5 asks which statement is true in. And the correct choice is B, regulators want humans kept in the loop.
Exactly. This tests inference and factual accuracy. The other options directly contradict the passage, but Part 2 plainly states regulators urge lenders to keep humans involved for important decisions.
Now we get into contextual vocabulary. Question 6 asks for the closest meaning to the word flag. The correct answer is C, mark.
This is a classic trap. They include the option wave, banking on you rushing and grabbing the most common association.
Like a flag on a pole.
Right. But in the context of the sentence, flagging suspicious patterns, flag is a verb. It means to mark or point out.
That brings us to question 7. Closest meaning to trims. The passage says AI trims costs. The answer is D, reduces.
Right. Because AI trimming costs means it cuts them.
I always think of it like trimming a hedge in your yard. You're cutting back the excess to make it neat.
That is a perfect analogy. The context dictates the meaning.
And question 8 does this with antonyms. It asks for the absolute opposite of routine. The answer is E, exceptional.
Yes. The chatbots handle routine queries, meaning ordinary or everyday. The absolute opposite of ordinary is exceptional. They put synonyms like regular in the options just to catch people who didn't read the word opposite in the prompt.
Oh, that's sneaky. Let me push back for a second, though, on behalf of the listener. When you're facing a massive reading passage and the clock is ticking, how should you balance speed reading versus analyzing?
Frantic scanning without a map is how you fall for distractors. The most robust strategy is to skim the passage first, purely to grasp the macro structure.
So don't memorize details.
Exactly. Just know that part 1 is benefits, part 2 is risks. Once you have that mental map, then you use the questions, like keywords, as your specific search parameters.
You know exactly which neighborhood to look in before you start searching for the house.
Precisely.
Okay, that covers section 1. Let's move to section 2, which is contextual logic, the Cloze test, spanning questions 9 through 13.
Right, moving from full passages to filling in the missing pieces.
Our source text here is about metro rail networks expanding across Indian cities. I always treat a Cloze test like a jigsaw puzzle. The words around the blank are the edges that dictate the exact shape of the missing piece.
And if you force the wrong piece in, the whole picture distorts.
Let's look at question 9. It says metro networks are blank rapidly. The correct answer is E, expanding.
This evaluates directional trend analysis. The passage describes a growing positive trend. Words like shrinking or fading just denote the opposite.
Right. Then question 10, it says offering a clean and punctual blank. The answer is C, alternative.
Yes, it's a contextual benefit. The metro is a positive choice against crowded rows, so alternative fits, eliminating negative words like obstacle.
Makes sense. Question 11 says stations are blank linked to buses. The answer is D, seamlessly.
We're testing adverbial collocation here. High ridership implies smooth operations, so they are smoothly or seamlessly linked. Loosely would imply poor integration.
Okay, question 12. If fares stay blank, the metro can draw car users. The answer is B, affordable.
Conditional vocabulary. To attract users, the price has to be appealing. If you chose steep, that would actually deter users.
Exactly. And finally, question 13. Every full train blank hundreds of vehicles off the road. The answer is A, keeps.
Cause and effect verb logic. The logical outcome of taking the metro is that cars remain off the road. A word like invites would contradict the environmental benefit entirely.
It really is amazing how much context does the heavy lifting. But what happens when we scramble the sentences entirely?
Pure jumbles.
Yes. Section 3, structural flow, questions 14 to 17. We have 5 sentences, A through E, about students fearing math, the root cause, and how teachers fix it with games.
This is where many test takers panic because it feels subjective, but it's really an exercise in logical narrative flow.
So question 14 asks, which is the first sentence? The answer is E.
Right. The absolute most important step is finding the anchor. The most reliable method is to look for the most independent sentence.
Is there a trick to spotting that?
Look for the sentence that establishes the primary subject and contains no pronouns pointing backward. Sentence E says, every classroom has a few students who fear mathematics. It's a broad thematic introduction.
It stands completely on its own. Okay, so we have the anchor. Question 15 asks for the third sentence. The answer is D, but how do we get there?
Well, you map the narrative arc. It almost always follows. Problem, cause, solution, result. The problem is E, fearing math. The cause is A, memorizing steps without meaning.
So E leads to A.
Exactly. And question 17 actually asks which comes immediately after A.
And the answer to 17 is D.
Right. Because D introduces the teacher's remedy to that specific cause using games and puzzles. So it goes E, A, D.
Which means D is the third sentence that resolves question 15. So what about the result?
Sentence C says students soon stop dreading numbers. That's the result.
Which brings us to question 16, asking for the last sentence. The answer is B.
Yes. Sentence B says, maths, after all, is a skill anyone can learn. The phrase, after all, is a classic conclusive summarization marker. It perfectly resolves the paragraph's theme. So the definitive sequence is E, A, D, C, B.
It really is just structural architecture when you break it down.
It is.
Speaking of structure, let's shift gears to section 4, the microscopic mechanics, error spotting, covering questions 18 to 22. This brings us right back to our opening hook about our ears lying to us.
Grammar is the operating system of a language. In conversation, we tolerate bugs, but the test asks you to debug the code.
Let's debug question 18. Find the error in this phrase, between you and I. The correct choice is A. The error is right there at the start.
Yes, it tests prepositional pronoun case.
But I hear people say between you and I all the time. I think they say it because it sounds, formal or smart.
It's a phenomenon called hypercorrection. We're taught as kids to say, my friend and I, so we internalize I as the sophisticated choice. But the rule here cares about prepositions.
Right, between is a preposition.
Exactly. And prepositions mandate an object pronoun. You'd never say, give the book to I. You say, to me. Therefore, it must be between you and me.
Wow. Okay, question 19. Find the error. Much busy that day. The answer is D. My ear catches that one. It sounds clunky. It should be very busy.
Correct. This is about adverbial modifiers. Much is an adverb used to modify comparative adjectives.
Like much busier.
Yes, but busy by itself is a simple adjective. To intensify a simple adjective, you need very.
Okay, question 20. This one always trips me up.
Yeah.
Neither the manager nor his assistants was. The answer is B.
This tests subject-verb agreements, specifically the proximity rule. When you use neither nor, you have two subjects. Manager is singular, assistants is plural.
So which one dictates the verb?
The rule dictates the verb agrees with the subject physically closest to it. Assistance is closest, so the singular verb was is a bug. It must be the plural verb were.
That is so deeply mechanical. But I want to talk about question 21. This is the ultimate ears lying to you moment. He is one of the best players that is there. The answer C, meaning has, is an error.
I guarantee a large percentage of test takers will mark no error for that sentence.
I would. When I hear one of the best, the word one rings in my ear as a singular subject, so has sounds perfect.
But the sentence isn't saying one has. This is the rule of relative pronoun antecedent agreement. Let's lose the jargon. Think of the relative pronoun, the word that, as a bungee cord.
A bungee cord. I love that.
It has to snap back and attach itself to the very last noun you mentioned. In our sentence, what is the noun immediately before that?
Players. One of the best players that.
Exactly. Players is plural. So the bungee cord snaps back to a plural noun and it pulls a plural verb forward. It must be players that have ever.
He's one of the best players that have. It just sounds so wrong to my conversational ear.
It does. But logically, out of a group of players who have represented the state, he is one. So the ironclad rule is one of the plus plural noun plus that always takes a plural verb. Trust the bungee cord.
Trust the bungee cord. Okay, question 22. Scarcely had she closed the door when the phone began to ring. The answer here is E, no error.
Right. It perfectly executes a complex structure-negative adverbial inversion. Instead of she had scarcely, it flips to scarcely had she, and it correctly pairs with the conjunction when.
It sounds almost theatrical, but it's mathematically sound.
Completely.
Okay, let's take this a step further into section 5. Precision tuning, or phrase replacement, questions 23 to 25. It's one thing to spot an error, it's another to know exactly how to fix it. I always think of this like being a mechanic.
Right, you can't just say the engine sounds wrong. You have to know whether to reach for a wrench or a screwdriver.
Exactly. Question 23. Replace the underlined part. Neither of the roads lead to the station. The answer is B, leads.
Applying what we learned, your ear hears roads lead, plural. But the core subject is neither.
Which is singular, right?
Yes. Neither is an indefinite pronoun functioning exclusively as a singular subject. The phrase of the roads is just extra information, so it absolutely requires the singular verb tool, leads.
Question 24. Tests verbs of communication. Replace. The teacher said me to complete. The answer is C, told me.
This is transitive versus intransitive logic. The verb say cannot take a direct personal object without a bridge.
Like the preposition to.
Exactly. You can say said to me. But the verb tell is uniquely designed to directly hit a personal object. So the most precise replacement is told me.
Okay, question 25. Replace. He's having two brothers. The answer is D, has.
Crucial distinction here between stative and dynamic verbs. Action verbs are dynamic. You can start and stop running or eating. But stative verbs describe a permanent state, possession, or relationship.
You can't be in the ongoing process of possessing a sibling.
Right. You can't start and stop it. Therefore, stative verbs cannot be used in the continuous ing form. It simply must be the simple present, he has.
It's like saying, I am knowing the answer. You either know it or you don't.
Exactly. Reach for the right tool.
All right, we are rounding the final corner. Section 6, the finishing touches. Questions 26 to 30, cover fillers, idioms, and vocabulary.
This is where we test semantic consistency, making sure words actually make sense together in reality.
Question 26, the museum blank rare manuscripts that blank back to the 12th century. The answer is A, houses date.
Idiomatic collocation. A museum contextually houses artifacts, and historical items date back to a specific time. Distractors like cells completely contradict a museum's purpose.
Question 27, test a concessive conjunction. Despite the blank weather, the match blank on schedule. The answer is E, inclement began.
The word despite is a giant U-turn sign. It tells you the outcome is going to contrast heavily with the starting condition.
So if the match starting on schedule is positive, the U-turn demands a negative condition. Bad or inclement, weather satisfies that perfectly.
Exactly. Trace the real-world logic.
Question 28 does the same thing. The NGO blank, free coaching to students who cannot blank private tuition. The answer is E, offers afford.
If an NGO is giving something away, they logically offer it to those who lack financial means, meaning those people cannot afford alternatives. Semantic consistency.
But then we hit idioms in question 29, where real-world logic seems to vanish. The phrase is, to let the cat out of the bag. The answer is D, to reveal a secret.
Idioms.
Let me ask you a practical question. If a student has literally never heard this phrase, is there a logical way to deduce it? Because rote memorization of thousands of idioms is rough.
It's incredibly frustrating. Isolated idiom questions really do rely on prior knowledge, but I strongly advise against rote memorization. The human brain hates arbitrary lists. You have to learn their etymological stories.
Okay, give me the story for the cat in the bag.
Well, the most common theory goes back to historical open-air markets. Unscrupulous vendors would sell a customer a valuable piglet, and they'd put it in a sack, for easy transport.
Yeah.
But when the customer wasn't looking, the vendor would swap the piglet for a feral street cat.
Oh, wow. That is so sneaky.
Right. So when the buyer got home and opened the sack, they literally let the cat out of the bag, and the secret scam was revealed.
See, I will never, ever forget that. That is so much more effective than a flashcard. Which brings us to our final question. Question 30. One-word substitution. A speech made without any preparation. The answer is C, extempore.
Right. This specific definition matches extempore. It's important to neutralize the distractors here. A monologue is a speech by one person, but it can be heavily rehearsed.
And a prologue is just an introduction.
Exactly. Extempore is the only tool that fits the strict without preparation constraint.
And just like that, we have navigated through the entire landscape of Section 1. We went from the macro level of extracting precise meaning and reading comprehension, through the Cloze test jigsaw puzzles, mapped the para-jumbles, debugged the grammatical code with our bungee cords, and finally traced the historical stories of idioms.
You've all covered immense ground today, and if there is one thing you take away from this session, let it be this. Mastering this section isn't about natural talent. It's about recognizing patterns, learning the rules, and applying them systematically. Every mistake in practice is just a stepping stone to perfection.
It is a system, and you hold the keys to it. Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Yeah.
We saw in our reading comprehension passage how AI is quietly changing banking. But think about how AI might change the way we learn language itself. Will future exams even test our ability to spot a grammatical error? Or will our software just fix it for us seamlessly in real time? Until that day comes, you are your own best processor. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and keep learning. You know that very specific feeling that drops into the pit of your stomach when you turn the page of a mock exam?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Right. Especially on a highly competitive test like the IBPS PO prelims. You hit the quantitative aptitude section, and suddenly you're just staring at this massive wall of numbers, charts, and equations.
Yeah, it really can feel like the paper itself is demanding you to be, some sort of human calculator.
Exactly.
It's an incredibly common reaction. The anxiety just spikes. But what we often forget in that moment of panic is that quantitative aptitude isn't actually about being a natural math genius.
Wait, it's not?
Not at all. It's about logic. It's about recognizing the underlying patterns the test makers are using, keeping your composure, and just breathing through the steps.
And that is exactly what we're going to help you do today. Welcome to this deep dive into Model Paper 06 of the IBPS PO prelims specifically, that dreaded quantitative section.
We are your study buddies for the next little while.
We really are. And we've gone through the entire section, from question 31 all the way to question 65, every single slide, from 37 to 74, no skipping.
Right, because skipping just leaves knowledge gaps.
Exactly. But instead of just mechanically reading out 35 math problems, which would absolutely put us all to sleep, we found that every single question actually breaks down into one of like 5 core survival skills.
I really love that framing because for you, listening right now, putting in the effort to understand the mechanics behind the questions is how you build true mastery.
Yeah, it really is.
So wherever you are, just take a deep breath, settle in. We're going to use the specific problems from this paper to build up your mental toolkit.
Let's jump right into the first survival skill, which covers questions 31 through 40. This is data interpretation.
The classic charts and graphs.
Yeah, you've got line graphs showing exports and imports and stacked bar charts of boys and girls in different school sections. Honestly, when I first look at these, it's just visual noise.
It is visual noise until you give it a framework. Data interpretation is really just accounting with pictures.
Accounting with pictures.
Think of it like this. If you're going to be a banker, reading the big picture from a set of data is a crucial daily skill. You are just an auditor looking at a visual ledger. Treat each data point as a single transaction.
Okay, let's look at question 31 to see how that actually works.
Yeah.
The line graph shows exports and imports from 2021 to 2025.
Right.
And the question asks, in which year was the ratio of exports to imports the highest? Now, my first instinct is to calculate the exact ratio for every single year and then compare them all.
And that is exactly how the test makers want you to waste your time.
Oh, really?
Definitely. Before you calculate anything, step back and look at the visual ledger. A high ratio of exports to imports means you're looking for the widest physical gap on the graph, where the export line is sitting significantly higher than the import line.
Oh, I see. So if I just scan the lines, 2023 really stands out. The gap is massive there.
Exactly. Only then do you pull the numbers. So in 2023, exports are at 60 and imports are down at 45.
Okay, so now I do the math. 60 over 45 simplifies by dividing both by 15. You get a beautiful, clean 4:3 ratio.
See? By leading with your eyes instead of your pencil, you save a full minute.
That makes so much sense. But what about when they force you to do the heavy lifting? Like question 32 asked for the total difference between all exports and all imports over the 5 years. You actually have to tally everything up.
You do. It's a bit of grunt work.
Yeah, so all exports equal 280. All imports equal 257. The difference is 23. And since the chart says it's in hundreds of crores, the answer is 2,300 crore rupees.
Perfect. It's a bit tedious, yes. But here is the secret to data interpretation. Always keep your ledgers.
What do you mean?
Look at question 34. It asks for the average annual export over the 5 years.
Right, so I have to go back and add up the exports again.
Stop right there. You already did that in question 32.
Wait, I did. I found the total exports were 280.
Exactly. Don't recalculate. Just take that 280, divide it by the 5 years, and you get 56, which is 5,600 crore rupees.
Oh, wow.
The test is rewarding you for being an organized auditor. When you calculate a major sum, write it down clearly. You will almost certainly need it for a subsequent question.
That is such a good tip. Okay, let's hit the other questions in this set quickly. Question 33 asks for imports in 2024 as a percentage of exports.
Right, so you just grab those specific numbers. Imports are 66, exports are 55. 66 over 55 is 6 over 5, which is exactly 120%.
Got it. And question 35 asks, in how many years imports exceeded exports?
Again, look at the visual ledger. Where does the import line cross above the export line?
It happens in 2021 where it's 50 over 45, and in 2024 where it's 66 over 55. So the answer is 2 years.
Exactly. Now let's shift to the second chart for questions 36 to 40.
The stacked bar graph with boys and girls in sections A through E.
Let's do this rapid fire. Question 36, total students in section C.
30 boys plus 20 girls equals 50.
Spot on. Question 37, ratio of boys in section A to girls in section B.
Boys in A is 35, girls in B is 30. 35 to 30 simplifies to 7 to 6.
Nice. Question 38, what percentage do the girls form of the total school?
Okay, I have to sum them all up. Total girls are 100, total boys are 150, so the grand total is 250. 100 out of 250 is perfectly 40%.
You're flying through these. Question 39, average number of boys per section.
Well, I just found the total boys, which was 150. Divide by 5 sections and you get 30.
And finally, question 40, in how many sections do boys outnumber girls?
Just scanning the bars. Section A is 35 to 10, C is 30 to 20, D is 35 to 15, so that's 3 sections.
See, once you treat the charts as organized ledgers, they aren't scary at all.
That really helps. Okay, moving to our second survival skill, which covers questions 41 to 45. We're zooming in from the macroscopic view of charts to the microscopic level quadratic inequalities.
Finding the relation between X and Y.
These definitely cause a panic response for me.
That's understandable. But remember, a quadratic equation just tells a story about 2 possible realities for a number. Our job is to figure out how those realities overlap.
I try to think of it like sorting 2 stacks of mystery boxes by weight. You don't always need to weigh every single box in stack X against every box in stack Y. If you just know the heaviest box in stack X and the lightest box in stack Y, you can figure out the whole story.
That is a brilliant analogy. I really like that. Let's apply it to question 41. Equation I is x squared minus 13x plus 42 equals 0. Equation 2 is y squared minus 11y plus 30 equals 0.
Okay, let's factor the X equation. I need 2 numbers that multiply to a positive 42, but add to a negative 13.
Take your time.
That tells me right away both numbers have to be negative in the factored form. So x minus 6 and x minus 7, which means our actual x values, our mystery boxes, weigh 6 and 7.
Spot on. And for y, we need numbers that multiply to 30 and add to negative 11. That's y minus 5 and y minus 6. So the y boxes weigh 5 and 6.
So stack X has boxes weighing 6 and 7. Stack Y has boxes weighing 5 and 6.
Now compare the stacks. The lightest box in stack X is 6. The heaviest box in stack Y is 6. So every possible X is either heavier than Y or exactly the same weight. Therefore, the relation is X is greater than or equal to Y.
That's incredibly clean.
Let's do another one. Question 43. X squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0, and y squared minus y minus 2 equals 0.
Okay, for x, multiplying to 15 and adding to 8, that's 3 and 5. So the roots are negative 3 and negative 5. For y, multiplying to negative 2 and adding to negative 1, that's negative 2 and positive 1. So the roots are 2 and negative 1.
Now look at those numbers.
Oh, all the x values are negative, and all the y values are higher 2 and negative 1 are both bigger than negative 3 and negative 5. So x is strictly less than y.
Exactly. Question 44 is similar. X squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 0. That's just x minus 2 squared, so x is 2. And y squared minus 7y is 10 equals 0, meaning y is 2 or 5.
So x is 2 and y is 2 or 5. That means x is less than or equal to y.
You're getting the hang of this. Let's look at question 45. X squared minus 21x plus 110 equals 0. And y squared minus 12y plus 32 equals 0.
For x, multiplying to 110 and adding to 21, that's 10 and 11. For y, multiplying to 32 and adding to 12, that's 4 and 8. Since 10 and 11 are completely bigger than 4 and 8, x is strictly greater than y.
Perfect. But let's look at question 42 because this is where your mystery box analogy gets a little messy.
Oh.
X squared minus 10x plus 21 equals 0, and y squared minus 9y plus 20 equals 0. Walk us through the factoring.
For x, multiplying to 21 and adding to negative 10, that's 3 and 7. So stack x boxes weigh 3 and 7. For y, multiplying to 20 and adding to negative 9, that's 4 and 5. Stack y boxes weigh 4 and 5.
So what happens when you compare the stacks now?
Well, if I pull the box weighing 3 from stack x, it's lighter than everything in stack y.
Right.
But if I pull the box weighing 7 from stack x, it's suddenly heavier than everything in stack y. The realities are like they're crossing over each other.
And that is exactly what the test calls no relation can be established. Because x can be both smaller and larger depending on which box you pull, there is no fixed mathematical inequality. The boxes overlap too much. Once you understand that overlapping dynamic, you can answer these questions in seconds just by looking at the roots.
That completely removes the panic for me.
I'm so glad.
Let's move to the third survival skill, cracking the pattern, which covers questions 46 to 50. These are the wrong number series. We've been finding unknowns, but now we have to spot the imposters in a sequence. Honestly, I hate these.
A lot of students do.
I'll just stare at a string of numbers until my eyes cross, hoping the pattern magically reveals itself.
What's fascinating here is that your brain is actually deeply wired for pattern recognition, but anxiety blocks it. My biggest piece of advice, do not just stare at the screen, act.
Hacked how?
If you can't spot a series rule immediately, write down the differences between the numbers. The secret usually hides right there in the gaps.
Let's test that on question 50. The series is 10, 12, 15, 20, 28, 38. Just looking at it, I see it's growing, but not fast enough to be multiplication. It's definitely addition.
Right. So don't stare. Write down the gaps.
Okay, the gap between 10 and 12 is 2. Between 12 and 15 is 3. Between 15 and 20 is 5. Between 20 and 28 is 8. Between 28 and 38 is 10. So my gaps are 2, 3, 5, 8, 10. That doesn't really help me. It just looks like random numbers.
But look closely at the first 3 gaps, 2, 3, and 5. What kind of numbers are those?
They're prime numbers.
Exactly. The test maker is using consecutive prime numbers as the underlying rhythm. The first primes are 2, 3, and 5. What is the next prime number after 5?
It's 7, not 8.
So if the gap is supposed to be 7, what should the number after 20 be?
20 plus 7 is 27. But the series has 28. That's the imposter.
You found it.
And if the number was 27, the next prime gap would be 11. And 27 plus 11 perfectly hits the final number, 38. Wow, that is deeply satisfying when you find it.
It is, and you only found it by committing to writing down the gaps. Let's try question 47. 3, 8, 15, 24, 36, 48.
Okay, gaps are 5, 7, 9, 12, 12. That's messy. But wait, 3, 8, 15, 24. Those are all just one less than perfect squares. 4, 9, 16, 25.
Exactly. The pattern is n squared minus 1.
So 6 squared is 36, minus 1 is 35. But the series has 36, so 36 is the wrong number.
Brilliant. Now look at question 48. The series is 2, 4, 10, 28, 84, 244. Notice the feeling of this sequence compared to the last one.
It starts small, but then it just explodes. 84 to 244 is a huge jump.
That aggressive growth is your brain's alarm bell for multiplication. When the numbers get big that fast, addition isn't enough. You start testing multipliers.
Let's see, 2 times 3 is 6, minus 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12, minus 2 is 10. N times 3 is 30, minus 2 is 28.
You found the rule. Multiply by 3, subtract 2.
So 28 times 3 is 84, minus 2 should be 82. The number 84 flat out breaks the rule.
You're doing great. So slow growth means write down the addition gaps. Explosive growth means look for the multiplication multipliers. Let's quickly hit the others. Question 46 is 3, 5, 9, 18, 33, 65. The rule is multiply by 2, subtract 1.
Let's check that. 3 times 2 is 6, minus 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10, minus 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18, minus 1 is 17. So 18 is wrong.
Yes. And question 49 is an alternating dance. 5, 7, 14, 16, 32, 35. It alternates adding 2, then multiplying by 2.
5 plus 2 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 32 plus 2 is 34. But the series has 35. Imposter found.
You are learning to read the rhythm.
Which brings us perfectly into survival skill number 4, speed math. Questions 51 to 55 focus on simplification and approximation. It's pure execution time, flexing those mental calculation muscles. But looking at question 52, this doesn't feel like a flex. It feels like a trap.
What does it say?
It asks for 27 squared minus 23 squared plus 75. Do they really expect me to multiply 27 by 27 by hand?
I strongly advise against calculating those raw squares. That is exactly the trap. The test makers put mountains in your path, but exams actually test your ability to find the tunnel drilled through the mountain.
How do I find the tunnel here?
By recognizing algebraic identities. You have a squared minus b squared. What's the identity for that?
Ooh, it's a minus b, multiplied by a plus b.
Try it.
So a is 27 and b is 23. 27 minus 23 is just 4, and 27 plus 23 is exactly 50. I just multiply 4 by 50, which is 200. I didn't have to square a single thing.
And then you just add the remaining 75 from the equation, giving you 275. You bypass the entire mountain of long multiplication in about 10 seconds.
That is wild. The test isn't checking if I can do arithmetic, it's checking if I know the structural shortcuts.
Precisely. Let's look at another shortcut in question 54. 449.98 divided by 14.999 multiplied by 8.01.
Those decimals look nasty. If I try to divide 449.98 by 1499, I'm going to run out of time.
Which is why you have to remember the section heading. It says approximation. The test is literally giving you permission to be imprecise. You instantly round those numbers to their nearest clean integer.
Oh, right. So it just becomes 450 divided by 15 multiplied by 8. 450 over 15 is just 30. 30 times 8 gives a final result of 240. That's almost entirely mental math.
Exactly. When you feel yourself starting to do a long, painful calculation, stop. Ask yourself, where is the tunnel?
Let's find the tunnel in question 51. 32% of 750 plus 24% of 250.
Break the percentages down. 30% of 750 is 225, plus 2% is 15, that's 240, and 24% of 250 is just 24 times 2.5, which is 60.
240 plus 60 is 300. Nice.
Question 53, 9 over 13 of 1690 minus 4 over 9 of 1080.
13 goes into 1690 exactly 130 times. 130 times 9 is 1170. And 9 goes into 1080 exactly 120 times. 120 times 4 is 480. 1170 minus 480 is 690.
And finally, question 55, 1.5% of 4,000 plus 2.5% of 2,000.
1% of 4,000 is 40, half a percent of 20, so it's 60. And 2.5% of 2,000 is 50. 60 plus 50 is 110.
Smooth and easy.
You are doing incredibly well navigating all of this. We have reached the final stretch, the fifth survival skill. Section 5 covers questions 56 to 65. This is word problems, the real-world math. We're taking all our logic, pattern recognition, and shortcuts and applying them to real scenarios.
This section tests your adaptability. I want to preemptively praise you, the listener, for staying with us because we are about to jump from boats to geometry to interest rates. Just take them one scenario at a time. The underlying math is simpler than the story makes it seem.
Let's do it. Let's start with question 58. It's a classic percentage problem. The population of a town increases by 10% in 1 year and then decreases by 10% the next year. What is the net change?
Well, I feel like I finally have an easy one. It went up 10, it went down 10, so it cancels out. The net change is 0.
Hold on. You just stepped on a landmine. That is probably the single most common trap on the entire exam.
Wait, really? Why? Plus 10 and minus 10 is 0.
Because they are successive changes. They don't happen at the same time to the same base number. Let's use a hypothetical baseline of 100 people. In year 1, the population increases by 10%. What's a new population?
10% of 100 is 10, so the new population is 110.
Correct. Now, in year 2, it decreases by 10%, but it's 10% of the new population. What is 10% of 110? 10% of 110 is 11. So I subtract 11 from 110, which drops me down to 99 people.
Exactly. You started with 100 and you ended with 99. The net change is a 1% decrease. Never add or subtract successive percentages directly. Always multiply the multipliers. 1.10 most for the increase multiplied by 0.90 for the decrease equals 0.99 of the original.
That is so devious. But I completely understand the mechanics now. Let's look at how mechanics work in question 60. It brings in speed and distance. It says, walking at 5/6 of his usual speed, a man reaches his office 10 minutes late. What is his usual time? I'm struggling to see how to build an equation for this when I don't even know the distance.
You don't need the distance. You just need to understand the relationship between speed and time.
Yeah.
They are inversely proportional. If you walk half as fast, it takes you twice as long, right?
Right.
So if his speed drops to 5/6 of normal, you invert that fraction to find out what happens to his time. His time becomes 6/5 of normal.
Okay, so if his time is 6/5 of normal, that means he is taking an extra 1/5 of time compared to his usual trip.
And the problem tells us exactly what that extra 1/5 of time equals in the real world.
The 10 minutes he was late. So 1/5 of his usual time equals 10 minutes, which means I just multiplied 10 by 5 to find the whole time. His usual time is 50 minutes. That is beautifully logical. You're just playing with the proportions.
Exactly. You see how we're breaking these down? The exam tries to overwhelm you with stories about men walking to offices, or in question 57, workers A and B splitting 1,500 rupees for a job. But underneath the story, it's just ratios and inverse relationships.
Let's do question 57 then. A does a job in 10 days, B does it in 15 days. Again, it's that inverse efficiency. A is faster, taking 10 days, so A does more work and gets paid more. The ratio of days is 10 to 15, so their efficiency, and therefore their pay ratio is the inverse. 15 to 10, which simplifies to 3 to 2. A gets 3 out of the 5 total parts of the 1,500 rupees, which is 900 rupees.
You are seeing the matrix now. Let's keep going. Question 56. A boat goes 24 kilometers downstream in 2 hours and upstream in 3 hours. Find the speed in still water.
Downstream speed is 24 divided by 2, which is 12 kilometers per hour. Upstream speed is 24 divided by 3, which is 8 kilometers per hour. The still water speed is just the average, right?
Exactly. 12 plus 8 is 20, divided by 2 is 10 kilometers per hour.
Love it. Question 59. The difference between simple interest at 12% and 10% on a sum over 2 years is 160 rupees. Find the sum.
Think about the percentage gap over the 2 years.
The gap is 2% per year. Over 2 years, that's a 4% gap. So 4% of the sum is 160 rupees. Divide 160 by 4, you get 40, which is 1%. Multiply by unity, the sum is 4,000 rupees.
Excellent. Question 61. Selling an item at 880 rupees causes a 12% loss. What price gives a 10% gain?
A 12% loss means 880 is 88% of the cost price. 880 divided by 88 is 10, so 100% is 1,000 rupees. To gain 10%, I add 100 rupees. The new price is 1,100 rupees.
Spot on. Question 62. A couple's average age at marriage was 23. 5 years later, they have a child, and the family's average age is 20. How old is a child?
Couple at marriage was 23 times 2, so 46 total. 5 years later, they each aged 5 years, so add 10. The couple is now 56 combined.
Right. Now what about the family?
Family of 3 averages 20. 20 times 3 is 60. So the family total is 60, the couple is 56, meaning the child is 4 years old.
So good. Question 63. The sum of two numbers is 45. Their difference is 9. Find their product.
Add the equations. 2x equals 54, so one number is 27, the other must be 18. Product of 27 and 18. 27 times 10 is 270, 27 times 8 is 216. 270 plus 216 is 486.
Just 2 left. Question 64. A rectangle's diagonal is 15, length is 12. Find the area.
Diagonal means Pythagorean theorem. 15 squared is 225. 12 squared is 144. 225 minus 144 is 81. Square root of 81 is 9, so the breadth is 9. Area is length times breadth, 12 times 9, which is 108 square centimeter.
Perfect. Final question, number 65. What is the probability of choosing the letter A from the word banana?
Banana has 6 letters. There are 3 A's. So the probability is 3 out of 6, which simplifies to 1 over 2, half.
And that is it. Take a moment to congratulate yourself.
Yeah, we have successfully unpacked the survival skills needed for 35 intense quantitative questions, from slide 37 all the way to 74. You've looked at visual ledgers, sorted mystery boxes for inequalities, cracked the rhythm of prime numbers, found the tunnel through speed math, and navigated the traps of real-world word problems.
It is a massive accomplishment just to sit and engage with this material. You've put in the time today, and that is exactly how mountains are moved. One stone, one equation, one logical deduction at a time.
Truly.
The real secret to these exams isn't magic. It's this exact kind of steady, relentless practice. Trust your preparation. You are building the mental muscle memory you need to recognize the traps before you step in them.
So what does this all mean for you beyond just passing a test? I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. These exams aren't just testing whether you know the difference of squares or how to calculate successive percentages. They are testing your mental endurance. They test your ability to stay completely calm when a complex, overwhelming problem is thrown your way with a ticking clock in the background.
It's stress testing your executive function. It's asking, can you find the clear path through all this noise?
Exactly. So think about this. How might mastering this calm, analytical state in a timed, high-pressure exam make you a better decision maker in your everyday life and in your future career as a banker? Because when the noise disappears and you stop letting the anxiety dictate your actions, all you're left with is the logic. Keep up the amazing work on your study journey for the IBPS PO prelims. You've got this. Imagine a scenario, just for a second here. You read a headline from a recent health survey, right? It says, vitamin D deficiency is incredibly common among office workers who rarely go outdoors. So what's your immediate reaction to that? Do you conclude that, outdoor exposure is linked to vitamin D? Or do you conclude that every single office worker needs to quit their job right this second to save their health?
Well, I would certainly hope you don't just quit your job based on one random headline.
But you'd be surprised how often our brains jump to those massive, emotional extremes when we're under pressure.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive. Welcome in. We're so glad you're here. Today, our mission is to basically decode the architecture of reasoning.
It's a great topic.
It really is. We are looking at a massive stack of questions from the reasoning ability section of a major banking probationary officer exam, specifically the IBPS CRP POMT model paper. We're tackling section 3, covering question 66 all the way through 100 sequentially.
And it's an excellent set of materials to analyze, honestly, because these exams aren't just testing your math or your vocabulary.
No, definitely not.
They are fundamentally assessing how well you organize chaos. And I want to offer some reassurance right from the start, especially if you, the listener, are deep in exam prep right now. These tests are not designed to trick you.
Okay, I have to say, they sure feel like it sometimes.
I know.
When you look at a complex logic puzzle, it's like someone dumped 1,000 jigsaw puzzle pieces on your table and just yelled, go.
It's a very natural reaction. We are wired to see the mess before we see the underlying structure, but that initial feeling of chaos, it's an illusion.
An illusion.
Yeah, because reasoning is just a muscle. It simply needs the right workout framework. So today is about providing that framework calmly and methodically. That way you can walk into any high-pressure scenario and see the matrix, so to speak.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we are starting with the mental heavy lifting. The spatial and relational puzzles. Getting these physical arrangements right in your head sets such a confident tone for the rest of the paper.
It really does. It anchors you.
So let's look at this one linear puzzle. This covers questions 66 through 70. It gives us 5 people. And for the sake of following along, let's just say their names start with V, W, X, Y, and Z. They are all fitting in a row facing north. But it's not just names. They all have different professions, right? A teacher, doctor, lawyer, banker, and pilot. And the prompt just hits you with a flurry of fragmented rules.
Which is exactly where the panic sets in for most people.
Oh, yeah. Pure panic.
The trick here is that you never, ever try to solve the whole puzzle at once. You have to find your anchor. In every single spatial reasoning test, the designers include one piece of information that stabilizes the whole board. You just have to hunt for it.
Like finding the corner pieces of that jigsaw puzzle.
Exactly. In this specific puzzle, the prompt casually mentions that W sits exactly in the middle of the row and is a doctor.
Okay.
There is your anchor. You have 5 seats. W is solidly in seat number 3, and we know their profession.
It's like moving into a new apartment, right?
Yeah.
You don't start by figuring out where the little throw pillows go.
No, of course not.
You place the biggest piece of furniture, like the sofa first, right in the middle of the room. That everything else just naturally has to fit around it.
That's a perfect analogy. So once your sofa, or in this case, W the doctor, is anchored in the middle, the surrounding clues become obvious.
Right.
The text says Y sits immediately to the left of W and is a banker. So seat 2 is filled.
Good.
The pilot sits immediately to the right of W, so seat 4 is the pilot. The board is practically solving itself now.
Okay, let me try to place the next one. We have V, who sits at an extreme end and is neither a lawyer nor a pilot. So wait, if seat 4 is the pilot and V is at an extreme end, V has to be in seat 1 or seat 5.
Right.
But how do I know which one?
Well, look at the remaining clues. If V was in seat 5, they would be on the extreme right. But the prompt also tells us about X, who is a lawyer and sits to the right of Z.
Ah. If X is to the right of Z, you need space on the right side of the board.
Exactly.
If I put V in seat 5, there's no room for X to be on the right. So V must be pushed all the way to the far left in seat 1.
Correct. And since V can't be a lawyer or a pilot, and the doctor and banker are already taken, process of elimination leaves V as the teacher.
Wow.
That leaves seat 5 for X, the lawyer, and seat 4 for Z, who becomes the pilot. You've conquered the chaos just by starting with the anchor.
That feels incredibly satisfying. So running through the questions quickly, 66, the pilot is Z.
Yes.
67, V is the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
68, third to the right of Y is X.
Correct.
69, exactly between W and X is Z. And 70, the incorrect pair is X and banker, because X is the lawyer.
You nailed it.
But then, and this is where it gets me, the exam setters love to mess with you by changing the shape of the table, like questions 71 through 75.
Yes. The rectangular table.
Yeah, it switches from a straight line to a rectangle. 6 people facing the center. G, H, I, J, K, L. This is where things get dizzying for me. Lefts and rights constantly change depending on where the person is sitting.
They do, which is why visualizing it from a bird's eye view can actually hurt you. You have to put yourself in the chair. But even better, you can just internalize the golden rule of enclosed seating.
Okay, what's the golden rule?
When everyone is facing the center of a table, moving to their right simply means moving counterclockwise around the shape.
Counterclockwise. Okay, let me visualize that. If I'm sitting at the bottom of the table facing the center, my right arm points to the right. As I move around the table to the right, I'm tracing a circle opposite to the way a clock's hands move.
Exactly. Once you trust that rule, the geometry stops being intimidating. If they tell you someone is sitting immediately to the right of someone else, you just jump one space counterclockwise.
So you don't have to mentally rotate a chair in your mind and try to figure out which way their virtual hands are pointing.
No, it saves crucial cognitive energy.
That's a massive time saver. So setting up the board with those rules, clockwise order becomes G, K, H, L, I, J, with H and J on the short sides.
Yes, exactly.
Which means we can just blast through the answers. 71, opposite G is I. 72, immediately right of L is H. 73, the short sides are H and J.
A lot on.
74, between K and I counted clockwise are 2 people, H and L. And 75, second to the right of J is L.
Just like that, the whole block of questions falls like dominoes.
So we've physically arranged people at tables. But as we move deeper into the source material, starting with question 76, the focus shifts to arranging real-world thoughts, critical reasoning.
This is a fun section.
It is, but it tests how well you deduce truth from a statement without letting your own personal biases sneak in. And I'll admit, this is where I always get into trouble. I read way too much into things.
Most people do, because human conversation requires us to read between the lines. We do it all day long. But logical reasoning on an exam requires strict adherence to only what is provided.
All right, let me give you an example from the stack, question 76. The statement is, schools will stay shut on Monday due to a heavy rain forecast. The exam asks which conclusion logically follows.
Okay.
Option 1, heavy rain is likely around Monday. Option 2, schools never open on rainy days. Now, my instinct says both are true. Where I live, the second it rains, everything shuts down.
But look closely at the phrasing of that second option. Schools never open on rainy days.
Ah, the word never.
Right. That is what we call an extreme absolute leap. A single forecast causing a closure on one specific Monday does not mathematically or logically prove a permanent universal rule.
That makes sense.
Whenever you see absolute words in a conclusion, never, always, all, none your alarm bells should ring. Unless the original statement uses an absolute, the conclusion cannot support it. So only conclusion one follows.
So we have to look out for the absolute trap. What about hidden assumptions? In question 77, there's a notice pinned to a gate that says, "Do not park vehicles in front of the gate." The exam asks if it's safe to assume that vehicles parked there cause an inconvenience, and if it's safe to assume people will actually obey the notice.
This is about understanding the human motivation behind the text. Why does a sign exist? The very existence of a prohibition implies there is an ongoing behavior that needs solving.
Right, if it wasn't an inconvenience, no one would spend the time or money making the sign.
And I guess you wouldn't bother putting it up if you believed 100% of people would just ignore it.
Exactly. The action of posting a notice carries the implicit assumption that a reasonable portion of the population will read it and comply. So both assumptions are implicit.
Perfect. Let's look at 78. It's a cause and effect question. Event A, vegetable price rose. Event B, unseasonal rain destroyed crops.
Well, that feels pretty clear. The destroyed crops event B causes the supply to drop, which causes the price rise in A.
Exactly. A clear chronological and logical link.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Question 79. It's a course of action problem that feels less like a logic test and more like a psychological evaluation.
Oh, I know the one.
The premise is a large number of students failed in the mathematics paper this year, and you have to choose the logical course of action. Option 1, the school should arrange remedial math classes. Option 2, all mathematics teachers should be dismissed at once.
It is absolutely a temperament test. Exam setters, especially for leadership or officer roles, are looking for rational, proportionate problem solving.
Because my initial emotional reaction, especially if I'm a frustrated parent, might be, fire them all. They did a terrible job.
But logic requires a cool head. Look at the cause and effect. We know students failed. We don't actually know why. Was it the teachers? Was the curriculum changed? Was the test improperly graded?
We don't have that data.
Right. Firing everyone is an emotional overreaction. It's punitive, not constructive. Arranging remedial classes, however, is a compassionate, practical response that directly addresses the immediate known problem. The students need help. Only course 1 follows.
So it's basically the vitamin D headline from the start of the deep dive. Just because there's a problem doesn't mean you nuke the whole system.
Precisely. Which actually brings us perfectly to question 80, the vitamin D question.
Oh, right. Indoor workers getting vitamin D deficiency.
And just like we discussed, conclusion 2, that outdoor exposure is linked to vitamin D, is a logical deduction. Conclusion 1, quitting jobs, is an extreme emotional leap. Only conclusion 2 follows.
You have to keep your own outrage or biases out of the text.
You really do.
Okay, let's transition from the messy human logic of the real world into the realm of abstract rules, syllogisms, and inequalities. Questions 81 through 87. This is the part of the test where it's just raw, unbending math and logic.
This is often where test takers freeze. The statements purposefully sound absurd to strip away your real-world biases.
I really do. Like question 81, some tables are boards, some boards are planks. Then it asks you to conclude if some tables are planks. When I hear that, my brain just turns to mush.
That's because you're trying to picture furniture. Stop picturing furniture.
Easier said than done.
True, but treat them purely as abstract sets of data. Think of them as Venn diagrams. You have a circle for tables, and it slightly overlaps with a circle for boards. That's your first sum statement.
Okay, I see the overlap.
Now, the board circle also overlaps somewhere with a third circle called planks. That's your second sum statement. The question is, do the table circle and the plank circle overlap?
Well, they could if the plank circle overlaps the board circle right where the table circle does. But it could also overlap on the complete opposite side of the board circle, far away from the tables.
Exactly. When you have two sum statements connecting through a middle term, they never create a definite guaranteed link between the two extreme terms on the ends. They might intersect, they might not.
And in logical reasoning, if it's not 100% certainty, it's considered false. So you cannot conclude that some tables are planks. Neither conclusion follows. That makes so much sense when you visualize the circles. But what about when the rules go backwards? Question 82 says, all grapes are fruits. Some fruits are sweets. And the exam key says we can definitely conclude that some fruits are grapes. How does that work?
It's a rule of logic called conversion. Let's use our visualization again. Imagine a giant bowl representing all the fruits in the world.
Okay, giant fruit bowl.
Inside that massive bowl, you drop a smaller handful of grapes. Because every single grape is inside the fruit bowl, it is a mathematical certainty that if you reach into the fruit bowl, some of the things you pull out will be grapes. The logic neatly converts backwards. Both conclusions follow.
And for 83, with pens, pencils, and crayons, following that same logic, only conclusion 1 follows, that some crayons are not pens.
You're getting the hang of it.
Okay, but there is one syllogism in this stack question 84 that feels like a magic trick. The premise is all bottles are cans and some cans are tins. And the conclusions to evaluate are option 1, some bottles are tins. Option 2, no bottle is a tin. Now, based on what you just taught me, the link between bottles and tins isn't certain. The circles might overlap or they might not. So I'd say neither option is true.
On their own, independently, neither is a guaranteed certainty. But this raises an important question, and it's a beautiful trap set by the exam designers. Look at the two conclusions together. Some overlap versus zero overlap.
Oh, wait.
Right. They form a complementary pair. In the entire universe of possibilities, either the bottle circle touches the tin circle at least a little bit, or it absolutely does not touch it at all. There is no third physical option.
But even though I can't prove option 1 and I can't prove option 2, one of them has to be the reality. So the answer is either 1 or 2. That is incredibly sneaky.
It's testing your ability to see the boundaries of a system, which leads perfectly into inequalities where we're also dealing with absolute realities. These are questions 85 to 87. They look like algebra.
Oh, I hate these. Looking at a string of arrows pointing in different directions just scrambles my brain. So in 85, A is greater than or equal to B, which is less than or equal to C. The question asked me to conclude if A is greater than C or if C is greater than or equal to A. Let me try an analogy. Let's say B is the shortest person in the room.
I like where this is going.
So A is taller than B, and C is also taller than B. But can I tell who is taller between A and C? No. They're standing on opposite sides of the room. I just know they are both looking down at B.
Yeah.
So I can't prove A is taller and I can't prove C is taller.
Correct. But apply the lesson you just learned from the bottles and tins.
Right. Even if I don't know who is taller, there are only a limited number of physical realities. Either A is taller or C is taller, or they are exactly the same height. If the options cover all those possibilities, which A greater than C and C greater than or equal to A do, then it's an either-or scenario again.
You've got it. It's about recognizing that you don't always need to solve for a single right answer. Sometimes you just need to identify the limits of what is possible. And once you apply that, question 86, where P equals Q is greater than R is greater than S, makes it clear that only conclusion 2 follows. Q is greater than S.
And for 87, M is less than N, less than or equal to O, less than P. Both conclusions fail entirely because M and N are definitely less than P. Neither follows.
Exactly.
This is changing how I look at these entirely. Let's pivot slightly. Let's apply this reasoning to maps. Human maps, like family trees, and physical maps with directions. Questions 88 through 93.
Let's do it.
Let's start with blood relations. Question 88 is a classic riddle setup. Pointing to a man, a woman says, "His mother is the only daughter of my mother." How is she related to him? When I try to read that left to right, I get totally lost in the family tree.
That's because you are trying to hold too many generations in your working memory at once. The strategy here is to walk the sentence backwards.
Backwards?
Yes. Start at the end of her quote, "My mother." She's talking about her own mom. So now step 1 link backward in the sentence, "the only daughter of my mother." If a woman is speaking who is the only daughter of her mother.
Well, assuming she doesn't have sisters, it's herself.
Exactly. So substitute the word myself back into the first half of the sentence.
His mother is myself. Oh, wow. The woman is his mother. That is so much easier than trying to draw a family tree in my head while the clock is ticking.
It reduces the cognitive load, and you need to save that cognitive load for the coded relationship puzzles, like question 89.
You mean the ones that look like random keyboard smashing? Like A and B at C?
Yes, those.
I'll be honest, my eyes just glaze over. The prompt says P at Q means P is the husband of Q, P in Q means P is the daughter of Q. And then they ask what A and B at C means.
They look intimidating on purpose to test your focus, but they are just shorthand. Don't look at the whole string. Break it down link by link, just like the verbal riddle. Let's translate. A and B. What does the ampersand mean?
It means daughter. So A is the daughter of B.
Good. Now the next link. B at C. The at symbol means husband, so B is the husband of C.
Okay, so if B is the husband of C, they are a married couple. And since A is B's daughter, A must also be C's daughter. You just translate the symbols into plain English, one pair at a time.
Precisely. And following that logic for question 90, tracking Deepak's father's wife's daughter's brothers, you realize the boy is just Deepak's brother.
It just unfolds.
Yeah.
Now let's test your spatial navigation with direction sense. Question 91. A cyclist goes 9 kilometers north, turns west, and cycles 12 kilometers. The question asks how far she is from her starting point.
Right.
Okay, so 9 plus 12 is 21 kilometers total distance.
Ah, but is that her distance from the start?
Oh, wait, no. She didn't walk back the way she came. She made a right angle. It's a triangle.
Exactly. And this requires a gentle reminder of high school geometry, the Pythagorean theorem. Her path forms a right-angled triangle, and her distance from the start is the hypotenuse, the straight line cutting across the middle.
Right. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 9 squared is 81, 12 squared is 144, 81 plus 144 is 225. And the square root of 225 is 15. She's 15 kilometers away in a northwest direction.
See, once you spot the hidden geometry, the math is straightforward. The same logic applies to questions 92 and 93, where a person is just spinning in place.
Oh, like 93, where Ravi faces south, turns 135 degrees clockwise, then 90 degrees anti-clockwise. I usually try to close my eyes and imagine myself spinning around.
Which is exhausting. Don't act it out mentally. Just find the net rotation. If they turn 135 degrees one way and 90 degrees the opposite way, they cancel each other out. 135 minus 90 leaves a net turn of 45 degrees in the original clockwise direction.
Oh, I see.
So a 45-degree turn clockwise from south lands you at southwest. And for 92, Rahim's turns yield a net 45 degrees anti-clockwise from south, making it southeast.
That saves so much time. You don't have to trace every single step. Okay, we are hitting the final sprint. Questions 94 through 100, the last few patterns that test speed and cognitive flexibility.
Let's finish strong.
For the alphabet series, 94 gives us BD, GI, LN, QS. The jump is +5 for the first letter, +2 internally, so the next is VX.
Right.
95 asks for the midway letter between the 8th from left and 7th from right. So that's 8 plus 20 divided by 2, which is the 14th letter N.
You're flying through these.
And 96 is AZ, BY, CX, DW. Opposite ends moving inward, so EV is next. But then we hit question 97, a ranking puzzle that I know is designed to trap people.
The minimum row puzzle.
Yeah. It says Puneet is 7th from the left in a row, Tarun is 9th from the right. There are 5 people exactly between them. What is the minimum possible number of persons in the row?
The word minimum is the critical anchor there.
Because the obvious answer feels like you just add them up. 7 plus 5 plus 9. That's 21 people.
But that assumes a maximum spread. That assumes Puneet is on the far left, Tarun is on the far right, and there is a huge gap of 5 people strictly in the middle. To find the minimum, you have to rethink the physical space. You must assume they overlap.
Overlap, like Tarun is crossed over and is sitting to the left of Puneet.
Exactly. Imagine a very short row of chairs. Start from the left and count 7 chairs to find Puneet. Now, we know there are 5 people between him and Tarun, but instead of counting further to the right, count backwards to the left.
Okay, so from Puneet at chair 7, I step back 5 chairs. Chair 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Those are the 5 people between them, which means Tarun is sitting in chair 1.
Now check the final condition. Is Tarun 9th from the right?
If Tarun is in chair 1 and he has to be 9th from the right, that means there are 8 chairs to his right. So chair 1 plus 8 more chairs equals 9 chairs total in the row. The minimum is 9, not 21. That overlap just blew my mind. You literally just fold the line in on itself.
It requires flexible thinking, which you also need for 98, the height puzzle. Sumit is taller than Lolit, who is taller than Rohit. Map it out, and you easily find Ankit is the shortest.
And that flexibility is what they test in the final coding operations. Question 99, CCAT equals 24, DOG equals 26. I love this one. It's just the sum of the alphabet positions. B is 2, A is 1, T is 20, total is 23.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? We end on question 100. Symbol swapping. Oh, I know these. Where they give you an equation, but they tell you that every plus sign is actually a division sign, and every multiplication sign is actually a minus sign. It feels like my brain is fighting its own muscle memory.
That is exactly what it is doing. You've spent your whole life associating a cross with multiplication. Unlearning that rule under the pressure of a ticking clock requires immense cognitive control.
What's the strategy there? Because if I try to hold the new rules in my head while doing the math, I always mess up.
Write down the new equation immediately. Do not try to solve it while translating the symbols. Dedicate 10 seconds to rewriting the numbers with their new translated signs. Once that is on paper, you can forget the confusing rules and just rely on a familiar framework, BODMAS.
Right. Brackets, orders, division and multiplication, addition and subtraction.
Exactly. So the messy original equation becomes 16 plus 4 times 2 minus 8 divided by 2. Once the equation is safely translated onto your scratchpad, you just methodically execute it. 16 plus 8 minus 4 equals 20. It's about separating the translation task from the calculation task.
And just like that, you've taken the chaos, found the anchor, and built a structure. If you stuck with us through this whole journey, huge congratulations. We've explored the hidden mechanics behind spatial layouts, the dangers of absolute logic, the Venn diagrams of syllogisms, and the cognitive traps of mental math. You just proved that with a calm, step-by-step approach, no exam section is unconquerable.
It really is just about organizing the information. You have the tools now. Before we sign off, though, I want to leave you with a broader application to ponder.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Think about the syllogisms and those implicit assumptions we just decoded. Tomorrow, when you scroll through your social media feed or read a news headline or listen to an advertisement, ask yourself, are they feeding me a definite logical conclusion? Or are they relying on my implicit biases and assumptions to make a massive emotional leap?
Wow. Are they selling me absolute certainties or just overlapping circles?
Exactly. You might find you're taking a reasoning test every single day.
That is a brilliant point to end on. Keep your curiosity sharp, keep practicing, and remember, the next time you look at a problem and it just looks like a chaotic pile of puzzle pieces,
just find your anchor and start building.
Best of luck with whatever challenges you're decoding next. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.